Picture the perfect American family. A dynasty, really. 3 generations of powerful lawyers in the same small South Carolina county. The kind of family where everyone knows your name, everyone respects your name, and everyone is just a little bit afraid of your name. Alex Murdaugh had all of it: the law firm his grandfather founded, the sprawling hunting estate, the beautiful wife, the 2 sons, the reputation. And then, on a warm June evening in 2021, it all collapsed. His wife Maggie and his son Paul were found shot to death on their own property. Alex Murdaugh called 911. He said he found them. He said he didn't know what happened. He was lying. But what came out over the next 2 years wasn't just a murder trial. It was the unraveling of a man who had been living multiple lives. A con, a thief, a fraud, for nearly 20 years. And just when you thought this story was over, in May 2026, the South Carolina Supreme Court ordered a brand new trial. This case is not finished, and today I'm going to tell you everything. To understand why this case gripped the entire country, you need to understand what the Murdaugh name meant in Hampton County, South Carolina. For nearly a century, the Murdaugh family ran the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office, essentially the top prosecutor's role in that part of the state. Alex's great-grandfather held it, then his grandfather, then his father. For 87 straight years, a Murdaugh was in charge of who got prosecuted and who didn't in that county. That kind of power held for that long in a small community, it creates something. A web of relationships, a culture of deference, a sense, perhaps, of untouchability. Alex Murdaugh didn't run for the solicitor's role himself. He became a plaintiff's attorney at the family firm, where he was known as a skilled litigator who won big settlements for injured clients. He was well-liked, well-connected, moved easily between the courthouse, the country club, and the hunting estate. His wife Maggie was warm and kind by all accounts. Their son Buster was in law school, following the family path. Their younger son Paul, well, Paul had his own problems. February 24th, 2019. Paul Murdaugh, then 19 years old, was driving a boat at night near Paris Island, South Carolina, with a group of friends who had been drinking. The boat crashed into a bridge. Several people were injured, and 19-year-old Mallory Beach, bright, well-loved, her whole life ahead of her, was thrown into the water. Her body wasn't recovered for over a week. Paul was charged with boating under the influence causing death. The Beach family filed a civil suit against the Murdaughs, and then something important happened. The legal proceedings against Paul kept getting delayed, continued, postponed. By the summer of 2021, Paul was finally about to face a grand jury. The civil case was also progressing, and with it, discovery requests. The kind of financial document requests that could expose things Alex Murdaugh very much did not want exposed. On June 7, 2021, just weeks before Paul's indictment was scheduled, Paul and Maggie Murdaugh were murdered. Prosecutors would later argue that was not a coincidence. At around 10:07 p.m., Alex Murdaugh called 911 from the family's Moselle property, their sprawling hunting estate in Colleton County. He said he'd just come home and found his wife and son shot dead near the dog kennels on their property. Police arrived to find Maggie Murdaugh had been shot multiple times with a rifle. Paul had been shot twice with a shotgun. At close range, it was brutal. It was targeted. This was not a random attack. Alex told investigators he had been at the kennels earlier that evening, but then drove to visit his elderly mother. He said he came back to find them. For months, he was described publicly as a grieving father and husband. Donations poured in for his family. He gave tearful interviews. He attended memorials. But behind the scenes, investigators were already paying close attention to one piece of evidence that would ultimately destroy Alex Murdaugh's alibi. A Snapchat video. At 7:56 p.m. that evening, Paul had sent a Snapchat video to friends. The video was filmed at the dog kennels. In it, you can hear Paul's voice. You can hear Maggie's voice. And you can hear another voice. A voice that analysts and witnesses identified as Alex Murdaugh's. The problem: Alex had told investigators he wasn't at the kennels that evening. He had placed himself elsewhere, at his mother's house, at the time of the murders. The Snapchat video put him at the murder scene, with the victims, roughly 90 minutes before they were killed. When prosecutors played that video in court, Alex Murdaugh wept. Here's where the Alex Murdaugh story becomes something almost impossible to believe. While investigators were looking into the murders, they began pulling on another thread. And what unraveled was 2 decades of financial fraud on a staggering scale. Over nearly 20 years, Alex Murdaugh had been stealing from his own clients, people who trusted him, injured workers, grieving families, vulnerable people who came to him for help. He stole settlement money before it reached his clients. He inflated fees. He created fake accounts. He moved money through a network of shell transactions designed to hide what he was doing. In total, he stole more than $12 million from over 24 victims. One of the most chilling cases involved his own housekeeper. Gloria Satterfield had worked for the Murdaugh family for years. In 2018, she had a fatal fall at their hunting lodge. Alex Murdaugh approached her grieving sons and encouraged them to file a wrongful death lawsuit against him, saying his insurance would pay out for the family. What he didn't tell them was that he had helped arrange for a lawyer friend to redirect the settlement money. Gloria Satterfield's sons received almost nothing. Alex pocketed approximately $4 million. He stole a death settlement from his housekeeper's children after encouraging them to file it. When the financial crimes were exposed, Alex Murdaugh tried to blame his opioid addiction, nearly 2 decades of dependence on prescription painkillers. The judge at sentencing was blunt. No truly impaired person, he said, could have run these complex transactions for 20 years without being caught. He was eventually sentenced to 40 years in federal prison for the financial crimes, on top of everything else. The murder trial of Alex Murdaugh began on January 25, 2023, at the Colleton County Courthouse in Walterboro, South Carolina. It became a national obsession. Prosecutors presented the Snapchat video and testimony from audio experts who confirmed Alex's voice. They laid out the financial motive. His world was about to collapse financially, and the civil case against Paul was going to accelerate that collapse. They argued he killed his wife and son to generate sympathy and buy himself time. The defense argued the state had the wrong man, that Alex loved his family, that the physical evidence was insufficient and the motive theory was speculative. Then Alex Murdaugh took the stand. He admitted he had lied to investigators about being at the kennels. He said he lied because of his opioid addiction. He was ashamed. He said he absolutely did not kill his wife and son. Under cross-examination, prosecutors pressed him on the lies, on the money, on the timeline, on the phone calls he made in the hours after the murders. After less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury came back. Guilty on both counts of murder. guilty on both weapons charges. The following morning, Judge Clifton Newman sentenced Alex Murdaugh to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He looked Murdaugh in the eye and said he was sure Murdaugh would spend time in the afterlife with Maggie and Paul, and that he hoped God would have mercy on his soul. Most people thought this story ended in that Walterboro courtroom. It didn't. After the trial, allegations emerged about the behavior of Becky Hill, the Colleton County Clerk of Court. Hill had been present throughout the trial. She had written a book about it, and jurors began coming forward with disturbing claims. They said Hill had spoken to them outside the presence of the judge and attorneys, that she had told them to watch him closely, that she told them not to be fooled by the defense, that she encouraged them to convict. The allegation was extraordinary. The clerk of court, a court official, had been trying to influence the jury, and the motivation, according to investigators, was at least partly to boost sales of the book she was writing about the trial. In December 2025, Becky Hill pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice and perjury. She received probation and community service. And in May 2026, the South Carolina Supreme Court issued a unanimous ruling. Alex Murdaugh's murder convictions were overturned. A new trial was ordered. The man convicted of one of the most high-profile double murders in American history is getting another shot in court, because the clerk of court tampered with the jury to sell a book. I genuinely could not make this up. As of June 2026, Alex Murdaugh remains in prison. He is still serving his 40-year federal sentence for the financial crimes, which is not affected by the new murder trial ruling. The retrial for the murders has not yet been scheduled. It could be months or years away, and when it happens, it will be one of the most watched trials in recent memory. Again. The Beach family, who lost Mallory in that 2019 boat crash, is still waiting for full accountability. The Satterfield family has filed civil claims to recover the money Alex stole from them. Buster Murdaugh, Alex's surviving son, has largely stayed out of the public eye. And the question at the center of all of it remains the same as it was on that June night in 2021. Why kill the people closest to you? Prosecutors say the answer is simple and cold: money, exposure, the walls closing in. A man who had spent 20 years deceiving everyone around him, choosing one final, catastrophic deception to try to save himself. Whether a new jury will reach the same conclusion, we'll have to wait and see. The Alex Murdaugh case is about a lot of things. It's about murder. It's about greed. It's about the kind of privilege that lets someone live a double life for 20 years without consequence. But it's also about systems, about what happens when one family holds too much power for too long, about a clerk of court who let a book deal compromise a murder trial, about how even the most airtight-seeming verdicts can crack. The retrial is coming, and when it does, I'll be here to break down every single day of it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that button so you don't miss a thing when this case heats up again. And if you want more cases like this one, I just did a full breakdown of the Corinne Reed case, which has its own allegations of law enforcement corruption. The link is on your screen right now. Drop a comment. Do you think Alex Murdaugh will be convicted again in the retrial? I want to know what you think. I'm TheMoistTowelette. I'll see you in the next one.